What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and it's probably the least fun genre of podcasting to do in this community. We've got WWE releases to talk about, and yeah, they happened on Friday. I'm not recording this until Sunday, waiting till the dust settled. Quite frankly, waiting to see if the list got any longer, because if you ask me, the list is quite long enough. It's sad times, it's terrible times, it's times to be angry, frustrated, / motivated. If you're a fan, angry, frustrated, / motivated. If you are a wrestling star now, soon to be out there in the wilds looking for something else to do. I think, was it Matt Cardona put out a tweet, and it wasn't, I liked it because it was one of the few that wasn't judgmental of WWE, because that's a very cut and paste thing to do, but I think he basically said something along the lines of, you've got three choices: fade into obscurity, try to ride off your WWE name, or go out there and prove everybody wrong, roughly. I mean, he said it better than that, but I thought that was really, really cool. And he said, like, nothing but love from your indie god, which is, you know, a little bit of Matt Cardona in your Matt Cardona. But I thought it was really cool because it's not a death sentence. It's terrible. It's, you know, you went to work one day and found out you didn't have a job anymore. It's not nice. It's whatever the case may be. What I'm not going to do here, though, and yes, I'm the WWE guy, so you guys are going to call me shills or whatever. I'm not going to do the overacted, over-exaggerated, oh my god, they're so terrible, how dare they do what every company does when they think they need to do it. Wrestling, movies, TV, music, right down to the everyday labor jobs like I have. If you need new people, if you've got new people, if you've got too many people, if there's X, Y, and Z that lines up, yeah, people get let go. People were excited, and I'm not putting the blame on them, don't get me wrong. People are excited when people like Jordynne Grace come aboard, when people like Julia come aboard, when people like Stephanie Vacour come aboard, when Penta and Rey Fenix come aboard, and it's all good. And all the tribal, oh, we got a couple more from AEW shit aside, they're exciting new people to join on the roster, but you don't magically all of a sudden have 12 more shows to feature these people on, which is what I'm going to focus on a little later on in this pod. But I'm not going to seep into the doldrums of the, oh my god, I can't believe a company fired somebody. Because companies fire people all the time. And it's a thing that happens. And the idea that, well, they've got enough money, they should just keep paying them, is also a dangerous slope to go down, because you're talking about people who should have been on TV. A lot of them. We're talking about a lot of people that I personally really enjoy, if you guys have been listening to my content for a long time. But you're talking about people that aren't being featured, and what you are now demanding of a company just because they are successful and in a boom period such as they are. WWE, like it or lump it, whether you like what they're putting out there, they are in a financial boom, whatever, period. That doesn't mean that they all of a sudden convert into a charity. They've clearly got people they're featuring, people that they're not featuring. So the fans that have nothing to do with the company all of a sudden saying, yeah, they're not doing anything on your show, but you should pay them anyway, is also a slippery slope to go down conversation-wise that's going to end up with a lot of feelings getting hurt. I hate to tell you about that. But I'm not here to say don't be sad. I'm not here to say don't be angry. I'm not here to say don't disagree with the choices that they made. I disagree with a couple of the choices that they made, but let's not stray into the fantasy land of WWE's going to keep everybody based on your wish list and your wish list and your wish list, and let's not stray into the fantasy land of this is the only company in the world that's ever fired anybody. What I am going to do is I'm going to have a little bit of a chat with you guys about the people that we know that have been let go so far, what I think about them, and where I think they could be going. And yeah, a lot of it is TNA. A lot of the answers that I have here are TNA, because not only is TNA a vibrant alternative place for people to go and still stay on TV, it is a way to backdoor back into WWE at some point. We hear the stories of people like Cody, people like Andrade, people like Drew McIntyre, people like, I don't know, whoever else you want to mention, who have left WWE, made it onto the indies. I mean, the two examples that of the three that I just used there, Cody and Drew, they both took their substantial detours into TNA, and I'm sorry, TNA has a rabid fan base, and they will keep you in conversation one way or another. Whether it's, oh my god, I can't believe so-and-so just came to TNA, or whether it's like, ah, that guy just ended up in TNA, if you're a bad person. But TNA on its own is thriving. TNA on its own now is making more TV deals. They're doing more live shows. Their pay-per-views are getting bigger audiences or whatever. And they are a place to stay seen. And they're tangentially connected to WWE. So the idea of somebody coming back later on down the line, there's a couple people on here that I'm going to mention specifically. It works in WWE's benefit and their benefit that WWE can let them go. And if they did end up in TNA, they'd still have a way to keep half an eye on them. And some of them, more so the TNA talents that I'm about to talk about that have been crossing over with TNA anyway, already probably have a comfortability there. So there's a really interesting, unique opportunity there as well. WWE being the company as it is now that doesn't shy away from a working relationship with company X, Y, and Z. What we see what they've done with Noah, with Marigold, with TNA, obviously, as well as being heavily featured at Bloodsport and whatever. They can keep tabs, and maybe you get another Cody, Drew McIntyre situation where getting to go out and breathe somewhere else does do you some good, and does let you flex out a little bit and flesh out your character, flesh out your talent set, maybe get yourself out in front of a different audience, etc. I think there is an amazing opportunity there as well. I want to talk about these because a lot of these from NXT, from my NXT biases is where I link in with a lot of these people. Cora Jade. Awesome. She's always been sort of featured as sort of the Jannetty in the sometimes on, sometimes off tag team between her and Roxanne Perez. Now, Roxanne Perez is better. She just is, but I think Cora Jade gets a lot of flack. Oh my god, she's shagging Braun Breaker. Who the fuck cares? Oh my god, she went and got a tit job. Grow up. Who cares? Oh my god, I think, there's something sordid going on with her and CM Punk. Stop being weird. She's awesome. I think she's awesome. I think she's filled the role in every spot they've given her. Unfortunately, a lot of the spots that they've given her is she's been making up the numbers in like 3 or 4 or 5 person matches. And for her to go solo, the only time she went solo was when she turned on a still babyface Roxanne Perez, which is ages ago in Wrestling Talk. Now, if you look at what I just said a second ago about TNA, she has been featured heavily in the TNA NXT crossover to the point where she was face-to-face with the Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich, mixing it up with names like Tessa Blanchard. Now, take the controversy around Tessa Blanchard aside for a second. You can't say that she's not a big name in the industry, especially a big name in the ranks of TNA currently. So, if you had a title situation in TNA and featured strongly between the two of them was Cora Jade, you've got a Trick Williams situation where Trick Williams is mixing it up with, not only Obafemi on one side, but Joe Hendry on the other side as well. She's seen in high regard, and I said, go back to any podcast that Jake and I have had. She looks like she's more comfortable in TNA than she was at her home base in NXT. So, is she going to go over there? Have they already got an eye on her? Did they already kind of see this coming down the pipe, and maybe they're already working on something for her? I would really love to see it. Do I think she'd necessarily pick up the Knockouts title right away? Probably not. Use the fact that she was fired from NXT to sort of be like, okay, cool, now I got the WWE reins off me. Now you're going to see the real Cora Jade, or the real whatever her name was before NXT. I had it written down and then I lost it. But the TNA fans already know her, is my point. And she can use this let go from NXT to spur either a cranking up of the gears or a slight twist in the character, or maybe they can play her off as sympathetic for a while. Who the heck knows? Speaking of TNA specifically, and you talk about TNA, you talk about the X Division, and somebody I'd like to see in the X Division is Javier Bardem, or Javier Bernal. Sorry, not Javier Bardem. That's an actor. Crossing the streams. Fine. Big Body Javi, as they called him on NXT quite a bit. Cocky guy. High-flying style, a lot of charisma, a lot of just get under your skin character work as well. Never got to really flush it out. Looked like he was going to start to have a little bit of a different direction on Evolve, from the episodes of Evolve that I saw, where he's looking a little bit more emo, a little bit more punk-ish leaning into a slightly different character there. I didn't see a whole lot of it, I'm not going to lie. But the guy's talented as hell. Make him a fixture in the X Division, even if you make him the guy that the next champion goes against before going to get the title, like that step stool type of guy. And then after a long enough period of time, he resents being in that role, and then he finally punches his own ticket there. Speaking of, again, and yes, there's two choices here. One of them is go job in ROH or go and be a mid-carder on TNA, and that's Jakara Jackson. Now, when you talk about Jakara Jackson, you got to talk about Lash Legend, who still is with WWE. Now, I don't think this helps either one of them. As politely as I can say this, because we're talking about somebody that just lost their job, there wasn't much to Jakara Jackson or Lash Legend separately. I mean, Lash Legend separately was doing that, like, 30-second talk show shtick that was really obnoxious and wasn't really going anywhere. Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend as a tag team, let alone as part of Metaphor, where the unit was way better than the sum of its parts. So if they had gotten let go as a tag team, I would be really confident with them going forward as a tag team. If they kept them as a tag team, I would be really confident, and I would say almost definitely are they going to be in the WWE tag team title scenario eventually. Jakara Jackson on her own, I don't really know what that looks like. And the same thing goes with Lash Legend, who's still in WWE. So would it be somebody that would be picked up quietly and like shuffled onto ROH, maybe as another opponent for Athena or somebody over there? Maybe a mid-card scenario on the AEW side of things, probably eat a pin to Mercedes Moné's and sit in catering for a little bit. I don't know. Wish her the best. I hope the fact that she's broken up from her tag team is an impetus to build an individual character so that I would have more to say about her. Don't really know about her. Same thing kind of goes for Oro Mensah. Oro Mensah wasn't even really a tag team within Metaphor for a long time. He was just Noam Dar's like sort of go-to guy. The guy's athletic as hell in the ring. We saw him like 2-3 weeks ago on Evolve, and he was looking really good standing on his own 2 feet, but I mean, that was 1 week. Not only was he one of a couple of numbers in a faction, he was very, very clearly a sidekick to Noam Dar. He was great in that role. Really happy to see Noam Dar back from his injury as well, and he's not going to have his group behind him anymore, so he's going to do his own thing. I don't know. I do not know what they do with Oro Mensah. Probably, I don't even know, mid-card on either TNA or AEW. Even in AEW right now, if you look at the champions across the board, what's he going to do? Go against Danny Garcia for the TNT title? Maybe the other two titles the other two mid-card titles in that company, because they've got a lot of titles. They're held by people that the AEW fans see as a main eventer. Is Takeshita gonna job to Oro Mensah? Probably not. Is Kenny Omega gonna job to Oro Mensah? Probably not. Not the greatest of hopes. I hope he finds something. I'm not trying to be down. As I say, TNA, not even in the mid card, not even in the international title picture. I mean, Oro Mensah versus Steve Macklin would be a heck of a match. I'd be interested to see what it looks like, but I don't think it's a skyrocket necessarily. Next up, we've got a really interesting contender because it's all 3 members of Gallus. And I find it really funny that people are getting so wound up about Gallus being released when I was the one flying the flag for Gallus, when so many people were saying, oh, why are they on TV? They're so boring. They've got no personality. It's absolutely not true. These guys are great put-over guys. These guys are great if you've got, especially like an underdog team. If you got somebody like a Javon Evans, you put him up against a Wolfgang. A Wolfgang will make a Javon Evans look like $1 million. That kind of thing. Gonna surprise you with this one because you guys know I'm not the biggest AEW fan. I would say send all 3 members of Gallus over to AEW. I think they would strive there. I think AEW is in a period right now where if there's one thing they can push, it's a big guy. Now, they don't do that for a long period of time. Look how they've sort of dropped the ball with guys like Archer, guys like Wardlow, etc. They always give a good push to Joe because it's fucking Joe. Powerhouse Hobbs is back in the mix. You know, you got, what's his name, Brian Cage, Gates of Agony, lots and lots of big guys over there. AEW is kind of in a big guy fad right now because I think they're trying to shed their we only hire gymnasts reputation, which is a good thing. I'll give AEW credit where it's due. On the one hand, they could go in there and just brawl with other big guys. It would be a lot of fun. On another hand, they are the company that does have a trios title. And look at the Ops right now. I don't think a lot of people have a whole lot good to say about the Ops, but Joe, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata, Katsuyori Shibata. Somebody tell me if I'm correcting that wrong. I'm sorry. The three of them versus Gallus. That's a brawl I wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, it's not going to make me tune into Dynamite, but it might be a good match. Or the other side of the coin is they could be heaters for somebody that isn't as big. For the longest time, when Drew was in the beginning stages of his heel turn, a lot of people were saying Drew McIntyre with Gallus as his heaters would be an amazing, amazing thing, but they never got called up to the main roster, probably because everybody online was like, no, Gallus is boring, Gallus is lame, Gallus can't do anything. But now they've been released, and now we can shit on WWE. I'd love to see Gallus actually hit over to and get the Gallus is All Elite banner, thumbnail, whatever you want to call it, that Tony Khan loves to put out. One that I want to claim for TNA, once again, is somebody that's already been in TNA's X Division, and actually was the first NXT superstar to compete in the Ultimate X, and that's Riley Osborne. Now, Riley Osborne is victim of kind of what Jakara Jackson and Oro Mensah are victim of, is he was in a group, the group fell apart, and then they didn't do anything with the pieces. Duke Hudson got released shortly after Chase U disbanded, and he's doing these... Duke Hudson is doing these weird things online. I don't know what his real name is. I'm sorry. But he's doing these weird video clip things where it's him interviewing himself and arguing with himself, and it's very similar to the Ryan George comedy sketches, if you guys are familiar with Screen Rant and Pitch Meeting and stuff like that. It's very similar to that, except it's a little bit more on the serious side. Riley Osborne was one that we were always saying, like, okay, when they do decide to split up Chase U, this guy's going to be a skyrocket. This guy's going to be, somebody that could definitely be North American champion, somebody that they could use to definitely reinvigorate the old NXT Cruiserweight title, which never really happened. And then they sent him over to TNA and they had him compete in Ultimate X. And he was awesome, and he, show up, show out, all those cliches. And he had people in the Impact Zone chanting Chase U. So, again, I say, because he's already got a foot in there, because he's already had a foot in there before, for him to either go to TNA, be part of the X Division, or link back up with Duke Hudson, and they couldn't be Chase U. I think there would be like a copyright thing in there, but they could walk in there with a, sort of a Nash and Hall, like, you guys know who we are, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think it could be a lot of fun, and he's already proven himself there. Speaking of proving yourself, and speaking of stuff that would specifically benefit TNA, TNA has a Knockouts tag team division. WWE has a women's tag team division, but they got rid of the NXT tag team division, which was really stupid because it was started by two of my favorites in Ember Moon and Shotzi, and then they got rid of them. They amalgamated them with the main roster titles, which was dumb because they have a really solid women's tag team division in WWE, whether you want to admit it or not, and the ones that always got sort of pushed to the side was the ones that actually looked like a proper tag team. I can't believe I'm saying this. Caden Carter and Katana Chance got released as well. Keep them as a team. Keep them as a team. Send them to TNA. Have them reinvigorate that Knockouts tag division. I would love to see them against Spitfire. I would love to see them against the Elegance brand. I would love to see them against whatever tag teams now come over from NXT, which would be a little bit awkward, but whatever, it's fine. We know that Rosemary and Zaya Brookside and Lei Ying Lee are like a trio that does tag team matches. Sometimes they could use some bolstering in that division, specifically Caden Carter, Katana Chance. Maybe she can go back to being what's her name? Casey Catanzaro was her real name, I think. Really dumb loss, that one. WWE, what are you doing? You got a women's tag team division, and you've got the most tag team, and you let them go. They will go and kick ass somewhere. Now, sometimes you got to consider the outside the box stuff. When Renee Young left WWE and everybody said, oh, what's she going to do now? Well, she's probably going to go where her husband is. You don't have to. Absolutely, you do not have to. But if you go online, if you go on social media, whatever, there is no more happy-go-lucky, get you right in the feels. You see total strangers that just love each other and you're happy for them and they do cute, cool shit. There is no bigger wrestling couple than that, than Gigi Dolan, former Priscilla Kelly, and Zachary Wentz. Zachary Wentz ain't going anywhere. Zachary Wentz and the Rascals are hardcore, like, staying in TNA for the next foreseeable whatever. Bring in Gigi Dolan, make her part of the Rascals faction. I think that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, she'd be a solid shot in the arm for their women's division. Their women's division has always been solid. They've always known how to present women, but they're dwindling a little bit. They lost Deonna Purrazzo to the abyss known as the AEW women's division. They just lost Jordynne Grace. They have Tessa Blanchard, but nobody's letting that happen. So you've got Masha Slamovich. And what's going on here now? Other than if they revisit the Cora Jade stuff, as I already mentioned, don't know what her indie name is. I meant to write it down, and I didn't. But Gigi Dolan, or Priscilla Kelly, if she goes back to that, versus Masha Slamovich, I would watch the fuck out of that match. Same thing goes for Dakota Kai. Now, here is where I got to get into the discourse a little bit, because Dakota Kai is one of the ones that has been plagued with a plethora of injuries. Absolutely not her fault. Do not hold that against her in the slightest. But you also can't hold that against WWE when you say, oh my god, they didn't even hardly present her at all. She wasn't even part of the show at all. She hardly ever got to wrestle. Well, a lot of that time that you're talking about, she hardly got to wrestle, she was injured. She wasn't able to wrestle. Not her fault. Definitely not her fault. If nothing else, nothing but sympathy for her in that regard. But if you're WWE, you can't feature a person that's injured, so you're not benching them. It's the word that everybody loves to use these days. But it's just, she's a great wrestler. Go back and watch her run in NXT. It was fantastic. The breakup between her and Dakota Kai, or between her and Tegan Knox, who's very loudly having her say this weekend, was a big thing. It was one of the biggest swerves that people talk when they talk about, like, swerves in NXT history. It was the time when they were in what's it called? War Games. And she slammed the door on the leg, and it is what it is, and it was a good story. And now they're both gone, which is terrible. Now, Dakota Kai is one of those ones that's going to be a bidding war, I would think. You do the old, Maxwell Jacob Friedman had the bidding war of 2024. Well, the bidding war is still alive in 2025. I can see both AEW and TNA wanting a piece of Dakota Kai. I can see potentially her getting back together with Nixon Newell and reuniting Team Kick and being another team that could reinvigorate a women's tag team division somewhere. Big hopes for her. Somebody will snap her up. She will have opportunities. A weird one is Eddie Thorpe. If you heard me and Jake Moore recently talking about some of the pay-per-views that he's been involved in, where he was just scratching the surface of getting into the NXT title picture, he was shedding a little bit more of his cartoony gimmick. Like, they leaned into the DJ thing a little bit. They leaned into his heritage a little bit. Maybe in the wrong ways at the beginning, but he was really starting to find his groove with it. Went a little edgy on one of his promos more recently, and people are speculating that maybe that wasn't in the script. If that's the case, dumb move on his part, not gonna lie. But he was scratching the surface of a really believable, pissed off guy, a really believable on the outside looking in, don't want to be on the outside anymore guy. And just as they were turning him into somebody that was more than part of the furniture, they get rid of him. He didn't hit the ceiling of whatever they were trying to achieve with him, so I don't know that he'll be on either other company's radar. To be honest, I'm sure he would kill it in the indies. I would love to see him show up at a Destiny show. I think that would be a lot of fun. Eventually, have him land in NXT. It's going to become my default answer. Have him land in TNA. Let him find himself. Let him, turn himself up to 11, as the old expression goes, and be something that gets WWE's attention again, be something that gets NXT's attention again, or be somebody like Eric Young, who, if you find, like, dramatic success in TNA, maybe you stay there. Not everybody's goal is to get back to WWE either. After something like this, maybe there's a little bit of salt in the wound. Maybe you want to maybe you want to burn your own bridge, and the place you find success, you don't want that place to be WWE. That's fine too. WWE didn't buy TNA, regardless of whatever rumors you've heard. They just work with them. You can be a TNA guy that's just a TNA guy. That's fine. You haven't seen Tommy Dreamer showing up in the Rumble or anything like this. So there is a dividing line. It's a dotted line now, but there still is a dividing line. That's absolutely fine. Strowman's another one that I could see going to AEW. Strowman reached the top of WWE, if you want to say it title-wise. He is a former world champion. He has mixed it up with the Roman Reignses and the Seth Rollinses and the Big Shows and the Goldbergs and the Undertakers, and he got to that echelon. He never really stayed there very long, but I think the guy's in the shape of his life. Whatever he's been doing in the past couple of months, apparently he's been doing with partial paralysis in one leg. So holy shit, bud! And he still used his own monster status to put over guys like Jacob Fatu, guys like what's his name, Bronson Reed, and all that kind of thing. So if you've got a monster that can build other monsters, as I say, go back to what I said a second ago, look at the monsters in AEW. Look at the Lance Archers and maybe they're getting Jeff Cobb, but the rumor is that WWE's getting Jeff Cobb instead. But your Powerhouse Hobbses, your Keith Lees, your other monsters of that ilk. You tell me Brian Cage and Braun Strowman isn't a match you would look at just to sort of, kaiju big battle, King Kong versus Godzilla. AEW would probably pick up Braun Strowman, and you know what? That's not the worst thing in the world. Again, I go back to AEW. I'm trying not to throw too much shade at them, but they do have the reputation of, we're going to pick up a bunch of gymnasts because that's what the Bucks do, and that's what Kenny does, and that's what Ospreay does, whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Ospreay's really good, Kenny's really good, the Bucks are the Bucks. But if you want to shed that, put some more focus on your heavyweights. Do the Big E, big meaty men slapping man meat. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to lean in a direction like that, especially in AEW, where things can get a little bashed up, things can get a little bloody, not quite as much as Sami Callihan stapling somebody's tongue to the ring, but apparently they're not doing that in TNA anymore. Interestingly enough, it doesn't change my opinion of AEW, but Strowman is a guy that could make an impact on AEW, and I wouldn't mind it. Shayna Baszler surprised the hell out of me with this. Apparently she's been working with a lot of the ladies in NXT too, so it was a punch in the gut to a couple of the younger people that she was working with. I don't know who specifically she was working with. I'm going to guess probably somebody like a Lola Vice or a Carmen Petrovic because of the stylistic choices. But here's the thing. Do I think AEW would pick her up? Yes, but she's exactly the kind of monster that they would use to put over whoever they're putting over. They wouldn't feature her. Would she kick ass in TNA? Yes. Also yes. But the thing is, she's carved out a little niche for herself in being one of the main bodies in this working relationship between WWE and Bloodsport. So if she decides to plant her flag and just sort of do I'm planting my flag here and Bloodsport is my arena, so to speak, and just kicks ass there for a while, and WWE eventually would hire her back, because again, with the working relationship thing, it's you're not with us right now, but we can still have an eye because we know what that company's doing. That could be incredibly beneficial. Not that I'm a super big indie guy, but I would love to open up my No DQ tomorrow and see Shayna Baszler's destroying the indies. She went to here in Australia, and then here in the UK, and then here up in Canada. Let her show up at a Destiny show. I'll mark the fuck out. Let her be the one that goes scattershot and lands in indie after indie after indie after indie. Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona turned himself into the deathmatch king. Have Shayna Baszler go around the world and prove herself to be like the shoot wrestling queen. Or something like she's already the Queen of Spades, which is bad in certain circles. I get it. I also don't care. Shayna Baszler's fantastic. Shayna Baszler is one of the ones that should be looking back as she walks away from WWE headquarters with two birds up saying, "Watch what I do next." I think she said something on Twitter like, "Nobody can do what I do, and you're all about to see it. Let's burn the galaxy to the ground." 100%. I'm a WWE guy. Put it in WWE's face. Go set the world on fire. Not in that way. And come back and get the hero's reception you deserve. Become the female Cody Rhodes. Become the female Drew McIntyre. And I'm sorry, I keep using those two as the example because they are the pinnacle of that. Whether you like Cody or not, you got to respect what he did. Whether you like Drew McIntyre or Drew Galloway or not, that's exactly what he did. They didn't want him. They went out and they became somebody that they wanted. Something they become the weapon that you want in your holster. Shayna Baszler would have no problem doing that. Dumb that they let her go. For sure dumb that they let her go. 5-tool player in the ring. They never utilized her to her fullest extent on the main roster like they did in NXT, which, when you consider it was Triple H overseeing that era of NXT and it's Triple H overseeing WWE now, kind of mind-boggling. Not debating anybody that says it's absolutely mind-boggling. How do you not have something for Shayna Baszler? You brought her up to the main roster and turned her into a vampire. But I think that was still in the Vince times. But it is what it is. Now that's all the releases, and then we got to one last piece. You know, if I was barely standing. As a fan, the one that sort of knocked me off my feet, and it's not a release. Let's be clear about this. It's simply a we're not going to renew your contract, and it's my girl Shotzi, and that hurts. It hurts, but at the same time, it's a we're just not renewing your contract. She got to have one final shebang accompanying Chemical X at Stand and Deliver Oi Oi Oi. Even though one of those other members is Gigi Dolan, who's also gone now. Maybe they become a tag team, who knows. But she wasn't fired, she wasn't released. She's come to the end of her contract, which I think means she's got no compete clause, which means she can show up anywhere, anytime. It wasn't a surprise, it didn't blindside her. If you see her online spaces, like on Twitter and etc., she's already put promos out, sort of talking backstage out in some like alleyway somewhere, like watch what I do next type of thing, you know, come along and underestimate me. She's gonna do cool shit. She's told several fans in replies and whatnot that the one thing she's gonna try to do before she leaves WWE is get her tank back, which is it's really interesting that the fans focus on that because it means it made an impact on them, and it means that she recognizes that it made an impact on them. Kind of bias here. For anybody that's been listening for any period of time, you know I was familiar with Shotzi before she even came to WWE because Shotzi was introduced to me by Destiny Wrestling. Check it out for Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. And if there's even a slight chance that that Shotzi could come back to Destiny for a bit, as I've said before, WWE's Aaliyah, who now go by her real name, which is Nymph Alaribi, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. If there's even a sliver of a chance that we see Shotzi make her return to Destiny at Summer Heat in a couple of months and take on Noop for her Destiny World Women's Championship. There wasn't a Women's Championship in Destiny when I first started going, when I was introduced to people like Shotzi and Silesia Sparks and a couple of other ones. So if she came back around, I would be elated. I would be posting all over social media like a little dweeb, and it would be really, really cool. And then to get back into my regular flow of things, would Shotzi show up on TNA and kill it? Would she show up in AEW and get buried? Would she show up in ROH and probably win a lot in a way that nobody would see? Shotzi can do whatever the fuck she wants. Shotzi kicks ass. If you watch her on YouTube, her and Scarlett are also on there doing a lot of like horror movie haunting type content, which is also right up my street. So I've been sort of keeping half an eye on that. So maybe she veers into that instead. But if Shotzi comes back up here to Mississauga and I see a Destiny title around her waist, I'm not going to mind that she's not in WWE. Now, again, the fact that I might like to see it does not mean that she sucked, that she lost her job. No. Once again, my recording devices are failing me. Apologizes for all the cuts and all that sort of thing. Yeah, where did I leave off? Shotzi's going to be fine. Shotzi's going to go do cool shit. everybody here is going to do cool shit. Even the people that I'm not quite so sure about, like Jakara Jackson and Ora Mensa and Eddie Thorpe, they will find something. They will find their feet if there is something out there for them. But Cora Jade will be fine. Gallus will be fine. Riley Osborne will be fine. Casey Catanzaro, Katana Chance will be fine. Gigi Dolan, I'm extra sure will be fine. Dakota Kai will have people that are pretty much knocking down her door. Same thing goes for Strowman, same thing goes for Baszler, and Shotzi's already got stuff lined up. I'm pretty damn sure. Now, all of that being said, all of that hopeful stuff that I've just said has nothing to do with me saying, don't be bummed, don't be sad, don't be angry, don't be frustrated, don't disagree with the actions, don't say in general, hey, it sucks that somebody lost their job. All of those things are valid. Yes, we're going to use that 2025 word. Your feelings are valid. It's fine. I just saw Thunderbolts. It's okay. Don't worry about it. But it's not the end of the world like it would have been a little while ago. Like before there was AEW, before TNA went on the ascendancy, before a lot more of these other places, MLP and Bloodsport and all those places got like the big streaming deals where everybody could see you and it was a place where you could grow and all that kind of thing. Yeah, 5-10 years ago, this is a death knell. This is a silver bullet. This is a, you know, dust off your resume type thing. Now it's more like I take somebody I like a Shotzi, like a Dakota Kai, like a Shayna Baszler, and I was like, okay, they're not in WWE anymore. Let's see what they do next. Now, that's the optimistic side. Once again, I say, if you're not ready to be on the optimistic train with me, you don't want to be, what's the Simon Miller thing? If you don't want to be using all your positive Pete powers, that's cool. You want to be bummed about it, be bummed about it. You want to disagree with WWE about what they've done, cool, fine. You want to say, you know, even like I say, the misguided notion of, well, you guys have the money, just pay them. You guys have the money, just pay them, just pay them, just pay them. Even if you want to go that far, it's obnoxious, but I'll go with you. But do not stray into hyperbole, and do not stray into cruelty. The first thing you see whenever there are releases, the same people that are saying, oh my god, how can you release anybody? Releasing anybody is terrible. Everybody deserves to have a job, da-da-da-da-da, will turn on a dime and they'll tell you who they should have fired. Well, why does Pat McAfee get to be on the roster if Eddie Thorpe's not? Well, first of all, you're being disingenuous. Pat McAfee is a commentator. He's having one match. It's a spectacle. The same thing goes for Travis Scott. It's a celebrity plug thing. He's not having, well, he might be having that weird tag team match that we see, but he's not. Travis Scott is not on the roster. Pat McAfee is not on the roster. Pat McAfee is not going to defeat Jey Uso for the title. You know, Travis Scott is not going to turn on John Cena and win the title. They're not taking over anybody's Mania. Well, Travis Scott took a Mania main event, but so my opinion is kind of falling on its face a little bit. But the whole, well, you know, it's really interesting that like they got rid of Gigi Dolan, but Becky Hogan is still here, and Rhea Hogan is still here, Charlotte Hogan is still here, and it's like, yeah, well, you're naming them after one of the guys that formed the industry, so I don't think the words you're saying mean what you think they mean. But the problem with that is disgruntled fans that don't like logic, their only option is to make the people that are talking sense sound like assholes. Because if I say to you, or if you say to me rather, well, why does Jakara Jackson have to lose her job but Charlotte Flair still gets to keep her job? My only answer for you is because Charlotte Flair is Charlotte Flair, which is the real answer. But then I end up looking like the dickhead. Why does, you know, Big Body Javi lose his job, but Seth Rollins is still employed? Because Seth Rollins is Seth Rollins. Oh, Seth Hogan, Rock Hogan, Cena Hogan, Cena. Cena did a Cena. Okay, cool. He's retiring this year, so you'll have to pick on somebody else later. My point being, people are mad that Nikita Lyons still has a job. Why? And they'll always pick out somebody like Nikita Lyons. They'll pick out somebody like Alexa Bliss. They'll pick out somebody like Liv Morgan. They'll pick up somebody like Charlotte Flair. They'll even pick out somebody like Tiffany Stratton or Trish Stratus. And now, what do all six of those? I'll give you a hint, and I'll lead you to water, and you can drink for yourself. Nikita Lyons Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Tiffany Stratton, Trish Stratus. What do they all have in common? What very narrow demographic do they all fit under? Liv Morgan, same thing. All the haters of Liv Morgan. Well, if it wasn't for Liv Morgan, then Caden Carter would be world champion right now. That's just not a thing. It's not. It's just not. And if you say, like, I will say for myself, I would love Shotzi to be a #1 contender on SmackDown tomorrow and rip down that title off of somebody like a Tiffany Stratton. To be the alternative girl that takes on the Barbie doll, wins the title, big win for all the alternative kids out there. You know, all the little edgelords with their punky haircuts in their 30s and all that kind of big, gigantic win for everybody. I would love it. I would scream it from the rooftops. I really, really would. But then, if the firing line came down to Shotzi Blackheart or Rhea Ripley, and Shotzi got let go, it would break my heart, and it does break my heart. But I'm not going to sit here and try to make the case that Shotzi is Rhea Ripley. She's not. She's not been put in the position to be, but at the end of the day, she's not. Rhea Ripley's Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's about to headline Crown Jewel in Australia. I'm pretty damn sure. She's not the only Australian on the roster, but she's going to headline in Australia like she did last time she was in Australia. Because Rhea Ripley is what I have said since Rhea Ripley was in the first Mae Young Classic, to the second Mae Young Classic, to NXT UK, to NXT, to Raw, to SmackDown, to Wrestle fucking Mania. Rhea Ripley fucking star. Now, the rest of them, did they not get there because they weren't given the chance to? Probably. Maybe. Perhaps. Are some of them lacking where others are not lacking? Sure. But the point of it all is, you're not going to separate one from the other. You're not going to say, well, firing is bad, but keep the people I like and fire all the people that I don't like so that I can keep the people that I like. Because then you're just playing chess. And then you're assigning different human value to people. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. It'll probably get me kicked off YouTube. It's fine. I'll start a new hashtag that says, don't tell everybody who should be fired and who shouldn't be fired, because shouldn't hashtag all wrestlers matter. Hey, there we go. So don't do it. Don't be a dick. It's like the... I remember ages ago, before he came out of retirement, when they put Edge into the Hall of Fame, and everybody said that, at the time, that his induction into the Hall of Fame should have been invalidated, because how do you, if you're talking about Canadians, how do you put in Edge before you put in Owen Hart? Well, first of all, because Martha wouldn't let them put in Owen Hart. Second of all, Edge is also awesome. The fact that Owen Hart has tragically been taken away from us several years beforehand does not take away from the fact that Edge had a Hall of Fame career, and is continuing to have a Hall of Fame career, even though he's doing it in the mud right now. It's fine. You don't get your, I don't know who, you don't get your Jakara Jackson back by shouting hate at Charlotte Flair. You don't get your Riley Osborne back by shouting hate at Sami Zayn. You don't get Dakota Kai back by shouting hate at Becky Lynch. It doesn't work that way. It's not a human for human, everybody's disposable exchange. That's really gross. Stop doing it. And stop pretending that Pat McAfee and Travis Scott and Trish Stratus took up places on the full-time roster, because they didn't. And the fact that you know they didn't makes you a dickhead, and you're trying to push the people that are telling the truth into a position where they could be interpreted as the dickhead. And we buy into it. We don't see it anymore. We're not playing along anymore. And it's not going to work. You just look like a dickhead. Now, the other thing, if I haven't been kicked off YouTube already, let's go into this. Please resist the urge to turn this into a friggin' identity politics game. Now, they started counting up who in all the releases so far this year is part of the LGBT community and who isn't. I'm not even playing that game. I'll go with a simpler one, though. This past week, the one tweet that I've seen retweeted everywhere. Well, the last round of releases sure shows you what Triple H thinks of the women's division. Let me just say something right here, right now. Eddie Thorpe, Riley Osborne, Oro Mensah, Wolfgang, Joe Coffey, Mark Coffey are not chicks. They were also released. So either you're pretending that they haven't been, or you're pretending it's only sad when it happens to women. It's sad when it happens to everybody. I'm bummed that Shayna Baszler doesn't have a job at WWE anymore. I'm bummed that I don't get to tune in and see Dakota Kai and Gigi Dolan and all them climb up the roster and whatever. But you know what? I'd also like to see Riley Osborne kick ass. Like I said, I'd love to see him be the guy that brought back the Cruiserweight title, but we didn't get that. I'd love to see Gallus finally get their due after being shit on and all this sort of thing. It's like, well, it's just the long trail of, WWE doesn't give a shit about women. Let me tell you something. I know people don't tell me, people don't like when I tell them lists. When you start talking about, oh, this just shows this and this just shows this, it doesn't show anything, really. It shows that some people were released and it's really unfortunate. But if you want to say that this is, it's the detriment of the women's division and WWE doesn't produce their women's division, they still do more women's wrestling by representation than any other mainstream company you can name. And yes, I'm saying that at AEW, who I don't particularly care for, and I'm saying it to TNA, who I'm really on board with right now. So I'm shooting on both sides of the fence here. They still show more women's wrestling on Saudi Arabia-based pay-per-views than other companies show week to week, month to month, pay-per-view to pay-per-view. And if you want to look at just this year, so far, you want to talk about representation, you want to talk about opportunity, you want to talk about all this and all that and all this and all that, right? Royal Rumble featured 30 women, obviously. Elimination Chamber featured 10, WrestleMania featured 11, Vengeance Day featured 6, and Stand and Deliver, oi oi oi, featured 18. Your average female representation at a WWE pay-per-view just this year is 15. And I know what's going to come next. Oh, well, Spaz, you included the Rumble. That's an easy out. That's a cheat. Cool. If I take the Rumble out of the equation, the average female representation on a WWE pay-per-view is still 11.25. Show me an AEW pay-per-view that does that. Show me an ROH pay-per-view that does that. Show me a TNA pay-per-view that does that. And TNA's women's division is pretty damn cool. I'm not saying this to say, the math makes it okay. I'm not saying this to say that, because the math is okay, then these people losing their jobs is not sad. Of course it's sad. Of course it's tragic. Once again, I will say there's a lot of kick-ass people on this list that I'm bummed I don't get to see on my TV anymore. But I'm bummed I don't get to see all of them, not just the ones that have a vagina. Stop trying to make it an identity thing. Stop trying to make it an us versus them thing. Just come out and say you're bummed. Just come out and say you're pissed. Just come out and say this, that, and that. Hey, there's a person that I like, and they're not there anymore, and I'm pissed about it. Don't say, well, it's extra bad because it was a girl. Fire 10 more guys and keep all the girls. Let me tell you something. The other side of that math that you're not going to hear about either, is there's still 59 women on the WWE roster that are still going to be struggling for a spot, and they would be struggling even more, just like the guys. There's more guys on the roster than there are girls fighting for a spot on the show, on the roster, on the card, on the pay-per-view, etc. But if it wasn't for this, there would be 65. It would be 65 down to 59, and some people drown so that other people can breathe. That's just a fact. It's cold, it's calculated, it is what it is, but here's the thing. The math. And yes, I lean on the math. And yes, I'm going to do the representation compilation at the end of this year the same way as I did last year because it was a really cool thing and I'm going to do it again, just in case you're wondering. But here's the last thing. And this has nothing to do with the people that are released, my opinion on them, whether I like them, whether I don't like them. It doesn't have anything to do with my opinion of WWE, my opinion of NXT, TNA, ROH, AEW, whatever. The majority of you out there that are complaining that releases happened at all need to understand you asked for this. You asked for this. And I know this because I've sat on the opposite end of conversations with a lot of you. Some of you I get along with, some of you I don't. Some of us had reasonable conversations, some of us not so much. But here's the thing. There's too much content. There's too many shows. The shows are too long. There's too many matches. There's too many pay-per-views. The pay-per-views are too long. WrestleMania doesn't need to be 2 days. We don't need to have this many titles. We don't need to have this. We don't need to have that. We're all burnt out. There's too much. Okay. Where do you think an additional 15 wrestlers go when you shorten a show from 3 hours to 2 hours? When you shorten a show, even though it's on Netflix, from 3 hours to 2 hours and 20, when you demand and demand and demand and demand that pay-per-views get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, to the point where Triple H is booking WWE main roster pay-per-views at the same short length as old school NXT takeovers. When there's less titles to fight for, when there's less shows to get onto, when there's less minutes on that show, how do you not realize that that's going to require less of a roster and less talent? And on top of that, when you look at the roster and see that the people aren't being used, and then throw accusations at WWE of, oh, look at all these wrestlers that aren't wrestling, but WWE is evil and they're housing them and blah, 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 blah. So, cool, we're not going to house them anymore, so we'll get rid of them. So you don't want as many shows. You don't want as many hours in a show. You don't want as many pay-per-views. You don't want as many brass rings to reach for, to use the old cliche. There's gonna be less people reaching for them. There's no mathematical way it works. Unless you want every episode of Monday Night Raw to be a Royal Rumble. Unless you want every episode of SmackDown to be a championship scramble. Unless you want every episode of NXT to be like 3 or 4 or 5 elimination chamber matches or battle royals or whatever the case may be. Unless you want WWE to scorch it down to one pay-per-view a year where they give everybody a match and it's 24 hours and then we'll see you next year. Every single one of you asked for this. Less shows, less time, less matches, less titles, less warehoused talent, which is a stupid expression anyway. Less titles, give them less to fight for, give them less to aspire to, give them less to build a story around. All of it. You defunct an entire division by basically acting over and over and over again like the women's tag division shouldn't exist until the WWE said we might as well not bother. That's why we've got one set of titles now instead of two. You all asked for it. Not every single one of you. Not every single one of you. But a lot of you. And more of you that are listening to my voice right now than want to admit right now because you think the culturally appropriate thing is to be outraged if anybody loses their job ever, which is also not a thing. You asked for this. I'm as pissed off about this as you are, but I'm the one that said, look, I'm a wrestling fan. We pay an exorbitant amount of money for streaming services and pay-per-views and tickets and all that kind of thing. Give me as much as you can. If WrestleMania runs a couple minutes after midnight, I don't care. If they want to spread it out over 2 nights and I can make a whole weekend out of it, that's cool. If it means more people get on the show, more people get to have matches, more people that aren't getting matches get an opportunity to show what they could do in the future, whatever. No, but we're cutting it at every end. The fans want to cut it at every end. The fans that have like TikTok microwave-itis that want everything to happen in 5 minutes. Well, the show's too long, the pay-per-view's too long, there's too many shows, I can't keep track. I'm a goldfish. I only remember what I saw 5 seconds ago. You asked for this. You did. Not all of you, but a lot of you. And like I say, the people within the sound of my voice right now, you know who you are. You don't like what I'm saying right now because it's not comfortable looking in the mirror. Less shows, less time, less pay-per-views, less belts. There should only be one champion. If there was only one champion, do you know how small the roster would be? If there was only one show, if we went back to the old days where all you had was Monday Night Raw, do you know how fucking small the roster would be? This would be a cakewalk. This would be a walk in the park. Half of this is developmental. Developmental didn't used to be on TV. This would happen and you wouldn't know it. And maybe you might say ignorance might be bliss. I don't agree. More shows, more opportunities, longer shows, more titles, more divisions, more diversity, more representation is the big word and whatever. You don't do that by cutting everything at every end and saying that there's too much and whatever. Here's the thing. I know a lot of you don't watch NXT, right? Make the same decision for SmackDown. If you only want to watch Raw, just watch Raw. Don't say, hey, I don't watch SmackDown, therefore it shouldn't exist. I don't watch NXT, therefore it shouldn't exist. I don't watch Evolve, therefore it shouldn't exist. I've decided that before it even starts, NXT UK is already a joke. That's why NXT UK failed, along with COVID and the stupidity that came with COVID. Hate to tell you, the cuts? Yeah, it's a money thing, because they don't want to pay for somebody that they're not going to use, and they're not going to be able to use them because there's not enough time, because you've told them that. Less shows, less time, less pay-per-views, less belts, less stories. Make it bite-sized, make it small, make it easy, make it digestible, make it something that I can watch in the background, make it something small, make it something compact, make it something, that I can fit in my pocket. You bitch about all this. You ask for less, 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 less. And you know what that gets you? Less. This is what less looks like. So if you're one of those people, and you're bitching about this now, go look in the mirror. Go point a finger. Go point a finger like you like to do, but point that finger into the mirror. Got way more pissed off about this than I thought I was going to. I think my thoughts are done now. Shout out to Javi, Jakara, Aura, Gallus, Riley Osborne, KC and KC, Gigi, Dakota Kai, Eddie Thorpe, Braun Strowman, Shayna Baszler, my girl Shotzi, and anybody else in the back in the office, the names that we don't know that also got let go, that nobody's talking about. Shout out to them as well. I hope they all do awesome things. I hope they all land on their feet. I hope they all land on their feet in ways that I can see and flip the channel over to. But we can look at something that sucks without lying to ourselves. Is, I think, the end of my rant here. Anyways, that's all I got. I wasn't in a good mood when I started this, and I'm not in a good mood now, so sound off in the comment section. I'm sure a lot of what I said here has been super unpopular. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going, don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.